Ready?
Right.
Take one.
You're good to go.
Hamed, thank you so much for coming.
That's okay.
All the way over to sunny Bristol. It's actually sunny today. From Cardiff?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. First of all, can you just tell me all about yourself for anyone who's going to be watching this video?
Where do I start? So, Hamed Amiri, 29 years old. I've been in UK since 2001. Current job, head of development in a company called New Law Solicitors. I'm also a board member for College Gwent. I want to say I'm also a public speaker. I don't want to say motivational speaker, it sounds a bit cheesy. And author to be. That's probably how I describe it in a very concise sort of version.
Okay, nice. 29?
Yes.
Oh, I feel so old. When was I 30? Maybe last week or 2 weeks
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 20th of Feb. You've done a lot in your young years then.
Yeah, I think it's probably got something to do with my background and the way my upbringing. I just realised I think the saying is you aim for the moon, land on the stars. So for me, I'm just going to give it as much as I can. So when I get into my 50s and 60s, I don't have any regrets.
No.
And I think it's a quote that's lived with me now. I've made mistakes. Do I regret them? Probably not. Because I think they've shaped me who I am today. So
nice. If we can just go all the way back to the start then and speak about your journey into the UK and then your journey into tech, because this is a diversity, inclusion in tech sort of blog platform. Tell me how, obviously you've been here since 2001.
Yeah.
Where have you come from and where you are today?
I guess the journey starts year 2000. So I'm from Afghanistan, so is my family. I would say a normal boy.
What's
bit of a
normal?
troublemaker.
Yeah.
But obviously in Afghanistan pre sort of US, so during the Taliban time. My mother, which I think plays a big influence to how I am today. She was an activist, a women's rights speaker. So she goes up, she gives a massive speech about women's rights. I think my quote is, "Be the voice for the voiceless." And you're writing it down.
Yep.
You can have it free. And I was so proud. I remember going up, my mum gives a speech. But then I think the quote that I have in my head, the success becomes the consequences, because Taliban at the time finds out about my mum giving a speech and there's an execution order for my mum.
No.
So we knew we had to kind of leave pretty much as soon as we can. And at the same time, my older brother Hussein, by that time he's had 2 operations already in his heart, a very complex heart condition. And again, we knew we needed sort of a sort of health support that didn't exist at the time in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So then is that embarking of a journey of almost a year and a half from countries I can't pronounce, I don't know, Moscow for about 6 months, back of the lorries and hidden compartments, just like a crazy movie scene that you can imagine.
Yeah.
And when they say they get here back of the lorry, refugees, that's how we got into UK.
Really? Wow.
And that's the year 2001, sorry. And I think the first early years I really struggled because I couldn't speak the language. I still have spelling mistakes, even though people say I've got a really strong Welsh accent.
There's a tinge of Welsh in you.
So I really struggled the early on years in my high school. So I would have been about year 8. I felt like I was plucked in from my city to a city somewhere else, different culture, different weather. Today it's sunny, but usually it's quite cold and raining. So I really struggled with that. I never had a true passion of IT. I wanted to be a doctor, then I wanted to be a astronaut, then I wanted to be a footballer and a rapper. But let's not talk about that. Maybe a different episode. But that's kind of what I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't even get a sentence together. So I lost all my aspiration when I was quite young. I really struggled, and I knew I had 2 choices. Do I lock myself in a corner and let the world go past me, or do I challenge it head on? And I probably went a bit too challenging head on, so I was too aggressive, I was too defensive, I got a lot of trouble in school. pretty much failed my GCSEs and my A levels, and only through my brother, who was at the university at the time. So I failed my A levels. I locked myself in a room. I didn't want to face people to say, Hamed, what are you up to? And I'd be ashamed to tell him, I'm resetting. I literally had to use in my physics, biology, and business. So I was quite embarrassed. And again, at the time, I didn't know how that was impacting me, about mental resilience, and what was to come years online. But I was having those challenges and sort of those emotions, and I didn't know how to deal with them. My older brother, preparing for university, at the same time needing a huge operation for his heart. I remember going to the consultancy room with him and mum and dad. He's about 20 something at the time, and they're talking about 60% success rate, Gore-Tex pipe, and take half the heart out. A very complex heart condition. He would have been the 21st person to ever have it in the world. Wow. And 2 places, Southampton and Chicago, could ever have that operation. And he was just smiling. And I realised I was complaining in school about people, culture, he's racist and the teacher's racist. Every excuse that I can think of. And I had my brother who was just smiling, seeing past an operation which was very risky, and saying, I want to get back to uni, get my degree, get a job, open my own company, and actually help NHS. And it was at that moment I realised I've been making this poor excuses about life's been too hard for me and blaming everyone else than myself, when my brother's got the exact same situation with the language, with the culture, with the weather, everything, but a terminal condition, and somehow he sees past it and he's just smiling and he wants to help. So that's when the penny dropped, where I was like, okay, I've been wasting my years in school. I've just been complaining about nothing. He has a success operation. It was a 14-hour operation. It was successful. He's back in uni, and as soon as he got into university, he pulled some strings, and he said, look, they're doing a foundation year in computer science. You want to get into this. I always had a knack about how computer worked, the hardware side of it. Just
Did he
intrigued.
do computers?
Yes, he'd gone
Okay.
and done network and security.
Okay, cool.
So he was already in that IT sort of sector, and he was like, look, they need people. You haven't got the UCAS points, but you can get into university. And I was so embarrassed of not wanting to reset and people seeing me, then I'd rather say I'm in university even though it's foundation year. So that's why I jumped to the foundation year. But what changed for me is, as soon as I went to university, it wasn't about me, it was about my brother, because he's the one who pulled the strings. And seeing how he faced the pending operation with a smile, and all he wanted to do was to see past it and get a degree and help. The next 4 years university completely changed for me. I put on loads of weight, lost contact with my friends, got my head down, probably for the first time, but also the first time it wasn't about me. I had to make sure I don't let my older brother down. So I left university with a 2-1 degree in computer science.
Amazing. Which,
if someone said that to me when I was in school, I would never imagine it.
No. You've been rapping.
Very badly. Very badly. So yeah, that's probably my timeline into, getting my degree into sort of the computer science sector or the tech sector.
Yeah. Because you see, and a lot of people do have a passion for technology, and that's why they go into it. So I rarely come across people who have just sort of fallen into it. Like in our industry, for example, with recruitment, when you say no one wakes up and goes, oh, I want to be a recruitment consultant, that's no one's dream, but it's a lot of people fall into that industry, and it seems like that you fall into it, but it's always meant to be by the sounds of it.
Well, that's a bizarre thing, and I think it's interesting because when I was in school, and these days when I go back to school, kids are worried about, younger generation are worried about, what I want to become, what degree do I need to be, and I need to have a set mind on what my career is. The reality is, I didn't know about computer science. When I got it, I wanted to be a DBA. when I got to my first job, within 6 months I was like, yeah, DBA is not for me.
No.
So I think my advice is, and again from your perspective, recruitment is, if you've got a set mind of what you want to do, great. If you're unsure and you've got a broad knowledge of, let's say, computer science, which is quite generic, that's fine. Go into a field and test it out and see if that's for you, because people tend to jump around after they've actually experienced what it feels like practically.
Yeah.
So I think that's not been mentioned in education sector before getting a degree or actually getting to university, that you might think you want to, in my head, we want to be a DBA, but until you've tried it, you might not like it.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do you, going on, just because we've spoken a little bit about like universities and schools then, and me and one of my co-founders, Nathan, helping Bristol University students sort of research degrees in education, because like I never knew what tech was. I learned Excel and Word when I went to school. No way did I know what a coder was, and you don't, and said I left school in 2006. But in terms of like university and degrees, are they relevant for people going into tech, would you say? And maybe relevant is not the right word, but obviously there's so many great boot camps now, there's so many great people that are self-taught, that have just had this passion for their whole life. Are university degrees relevant for the tech industry, would you say? No,
I want to say yes and a no.
Yeah.
So no matter how much you get taught in university, once you go into the sector, you will have a 3 months, you're a newbie, you're a graduate, so you go to their scheme, their training platform, and they'll send you their own sort of tools you need to learn. So I think the basics that gets covered in university, relevant, but don't expect that you're going to go from university and then there won't be some additional training. I guess from my perspective, and I've always said this, some people who wants to go from they want to apply for the first job in IT, they're looking for the perfect job. For me, your first one in IT, especially as a graduate, is your platform into the IT sector. Get your foot through the door. You will have some not fun projects. You will have to do stuff that you probably didn't wanted to do, when you were in university, or you imagined you would be doing. Because people think, you know what, I'm in university, I'm going to get a job, it's 60k, and I'll be a pen tester, or etc., or an architect. The reality is your first job. Get your foot through the door, learn as much as you want, pick up the project no one else wants to pick up. 2 years, 3 years, and then you understand what you really want to do, because you've kind of exposed yourself into different sectors. And I think that hasn't been taught in universities. They kind of have an expectation, and maybe I'm being harsh, they have an expectation of my job that I want to go to is the job that I envision 5-6 years time. Well, the reality is you're a graduate, you're doing stuff that you might not imagine you'll do. So that'd be my advice. The first one is literally your platform into where your career might be going.
Nice, cool. What going back with obviously WomenRock, diversity and inclusion, I focused a lot on diversity, and not that women in tech isn't a great thing, of course it is, it will always be my passion, it will always be something that I really support and that I sometimes get angry about, but yeah, it's my whole passion. But I really want to start looking at the inclusion piece, and I think because women in tech and the diversity piece has been so highly talked about, so high on agendas, we're not looking at inclusion as well, like people with disabilities, people from different race, underrepresented men as well. So I think inclusion is a big thing that I want to look at this year. And obviously yourself being a refugee and being a non-white male in tech, I mean, have you had any struggles in your career getting where you are today?
I think, I don't want to say sugarcoat, people say no, it's not, it's fine. No, the reality is there is. I think I've grown a thick skin, as I say, over the years. I've had my fair share of experience where I've been looked over. Internally, externally, whatever it's been, I've had that. But at the same time, there's a drive, I think probably similar to you, where I feel like if I don't keep at it and say, that's just the way it is, I'm not then setting ways for other people who might be behind me, says, someone have to look up to, and they go, oh, do you know what, Hamed's made it.
Yeah.
He wasn't from here, he's Afghan, he's refugee, he's Muslim, all the categories that are, I don't want to call them categories, that that is in that banner, but he's made it. So I need to step up. I need to brush off the feelings that I have that am I being looked over, and keep pushing. But I've had it. Is it going to change? Has it changed? Probably very slowly. I'm an advocate for women in IT, and I'll tell you why. My role model in professional life is Sam Toombs. She's a director in BT.
Cool.
She was a director in my first job, CGI. There was just something about the way she just presented herself. She was very driven, very ambitious, but at the same time she cared. Another quote: "People over process." She looked
right. Now I'm stealing these up.
She focused on the people, and the numbers took care of themselves. Where we're in a society where a lot of organisations want to focus on the numbers, not the people. And once she's done that, and the way she's done it, and I was like, you know what, that's my role model. So after seeing that, again, my first manager was Linda, another strong-minded lady, someone who worked for me, Nicole. She had an English degree. She went into IT, so she became a trainee, and now she's very senior in an IT role. And I love that, because when I met her first, people were like, "English degree, what are you doing?" And I said to her, you know what? You've got the drive, you've got the passion, you've got the knowledge. Run with it. Ignore the noises. People say if people talk about you, that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because they're nervous that you're running faster than them.
Yeah.
So for me, I say, do you know what? Use that energy and run faster.
Yeah.
Prove them wrong. I've had that mindset where people have doubted me in school. Someone told me, I'm not going to mention the names, a teacher, you're going to be nobody. You're going to be a failure. I wanted to go back to my own school and say, hey, look at me now. So I've used that negative energy to drive me and fuel me, and I think that's never stopped. And every time I've had a no or a door closed in my face, I've just used that energy and say, do you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. Yeah,
I love that.
And I think that's what drives me to where I am today. And it scares me where it's going to lead me to, because that hasn't gone away. But it's a good scary feeling, because I'm like, it could be limitless to where I get to. So yeah, that's probably my advice.
Amazing. With being obviously a head of development, I don't know how many people you're actually managing physically, but I mean, what do you do as a male manager to promote sort of women in your team, or attract them, or even recruit them? Obviously it's a big passion for you, but what do you do anything specifically? And as I said, I think this is a great question, being a male in a leadership role, because it is about what this platform is for other companies to watch this or read the interviews, for other people to follow suit, because we've all got to do it together. It's not just one person's problem.
You're right.
So
you're right.
What do you do? Is there anything you do specifically?
Yes. So I think people say, well, there isn't enough applicants out there. It's a little thing that counts. So I'll give you a real example. I was recruiting a junior developer into my team, talking to my team, and they were saying, well, when he comes in, he'll be doing this and he'll be doing. I was like, well, hang on, how do you know it'll be he? It could be he or she, so let's not make that assumption. And it's a little thing, because when I say that, and I corrected them a few times, they were just having a conversation. There was nothing malice about it, but it's the mindset. And as soon as I say, well, it could be he or she, you're changing a small percentage of a mindset that a typical developer is not what your mind is imagining. If I go to school and I say I do IT, they imagine a guy with glasses, beard, darkened room, coding away. That isn't the case. I've met people in, and to be fair, IT is so broad: marketing, sales, developers. So I'm trying to change that. But in workplace, that was my first thing. The next bit was when it comes to recruitment, and I was seeing CVs. I specifically said our in-house recruitment, look for graduates on merit. But ideally, if there's a female out there and she's ticked the boxes, I would want to interview her first. And you talk about inclusion and diversity, and people say, why does it need to be inclusion? The reality is you will have different mindsets. I've sat in I've done courses about neuroscience and etc. And it talks about having a male and a female will actually have a better output because the perspective of male is different to female and vice versa. So you're actually getting a much more refined answer. So when it comes to marketing, males has different views on colours to females. So you're actually narrowing your audience. When it comes to recruitment, it's the same thing. When it comes to in my team, for example, when we want to talk about logical coding, etc., there are certain ways the brain works differently that you're actually missing out. So people are like, oh, guys, logical, it's not. You're actually missing out. You will actually be a better dynamic team if you've got a more diverse mindset. That goes from male, female, and people from a different background, because again, I was fascinated when they were talking about if someone's from a different culture, they will have a different perspective. Now, if you've got a typical white male team, you're actually missing on a different perspective when it comes to growth, strategy, governance, because you just don't have that other ingredient. So that's what people think about. It's not just the fact that, we want to have a bit more balance, or we want to have a BAME member. It's the fact that you're actually missing out on your high performance team. So it will impact your productivity, utilization, cost, but we don't talk about it. And I think as a male, my duty is to talk about that quite openly, like to my team. It doesn't matter if it's a he or a she. When he goes out, look for on merit, but for me specifically, I've looked for a female candidate. But simply talking about, in any format, in any platform, that IT isn't a male-driven, or it shouldn't be a male-driven industry, I think that's a start. That's that's the least I could do.
Yeah.
And then the key people like yourself saying why, like my friend Sam, like my friend Nicole, they should be coming to these platforms, and I've pushed them, and Sam does it quite actively, and Nicole does it now, to say, I'm a female, I've done an English degree. It doesn't matter. Let's not label, and the label goes the whole inclusion. We put labels and protective categories. There's a discussion. Should we label people? Because then you're saying they're different. So I think I'm quite similar to you. I get quite angry when people talk about male dominance. It is, but I don't get why. Because every role model that I've got in my mind in my professional life, they're all female.
And I think one frustration at the moment is, I think diversity and inclusion has become such a hot topic that it's sort of turned like a bit negative, because it's always, we're lacking women, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
And I've seen huge improvements, and is that from me hiring women? I don't just hire women, but I have hired unbelievable women, and a lot of them over the past sort of definitely 12 months anyway. I see the improvements, and I think we're going in the right direction, and I don't think that's one thing that, and you're obviously super passionate about it and really positive as a person, which I love, and everyone else needs to do that. We need to have positivity and stop let's not just speak negatively about diversity and inclusion. Let's speak more positively about it. So that's one thing that this year, all you'll see is this is this great woman, this is this great guy. Like, let's speak more positively about it and stop making it such a negative subject, because do you know what I mean? I think that it's getting better. I
totally
definitely
agree.
think we're improving.
I think simply talking about it has helped.
Yeah.
People, and again, it comes to the whole diversity piece. People avoid certain topics. So, for example, me being a Muslim, a refugee, and an Afghan, there's certain people feel awkward to talk about certain questions and what my views are, because they're like, am I gonna offend him? Is he gonna get? Just talk about it quite openly. And again, people like myself need to talk about it to allow others to realize it's okay to ask those awkward questions, because when we do, just like diversity and inclusion, then people realize, he doesn't have these crazy views, or actually it's normal. We're actually on a plane.
You're a role model yourself. You probably don't think of yourself
as
a role model, but you are.
No, you're right. I hate to categorize it myself, and I think it's one of those things, like motivational speaking. It feels weird me saying it. I think for me, I just want to make a positive change. If that's me speaking, if that's me going out there to universities and schools and put myself in an awkward situation and talk about me failing in A-levels. If it's making a change, then I'm okay with it.
Cool. What we spoke quite a lot about diversity inclusion. Tell me about your book, and your amazing brother, I'm sure, is very, very proud of you. I know you brought.
I have.
Uncorrected, did you say?
It's the uncorrected proof copy, so I've only got a few of these. The final version will be out June the 4th, which is literally a few months away. So the purpose of this book, my brother was a huge role model of, in my personal life. He was my older brother, my best friend, my roommate. 2018, he suddenly passes away. And that was the biggest low moment I've had in my life. I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, because someone that close to you, and he was only 31 when he passed away, it's not easy. And I was in two mindsets. I could go down the route of questioning why, how, lock myself in a room and cry about it, or I said to myself, use that energy to turn something into a positive. So I was always keen about our journey and what we went through as a family, the reasons behind it, because it talks about refugee from a different perspective. Also, my brother, by the time he passed away, he was a board member in NHS, funnily enough in Bristol, and in Cardiff, and he'd done so much in his short lifetime. So I knew I just had to talk about that, because NHS done so much for us. If we didn't come to UK and he didn't have that operation, he wouldn't have had additional 17 years. So I was grateful for that.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to make sure his legacy lived on somehow. But also my mum and dad really struggled with him passing away, naturally being the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make sure a way I've captured what we went through as a family, and looking back to say, look, he achieved so much, but also turn it into a positive message. And I love the quote they've put there, story of hope, because that's what this is. And I think the title, me and my younger brother were talking about this, and my best friend, he had a faulty heart, but he had a heart and a will to wanted to change people's perception. If he was here right now, you wouldn't even know he had a heart condition. So when he passed away in 2018, for the next 3 months after that, I locked myself in a room, but not to cry about it, to write this. I wrote about 86,000 words, and I said, you know what? I was proud, I was emotional, because everything went into that. From the moment my mum decided to stand up for women's rights, which I love, and I think there's something about that in me that drives me to be an advocate for women in the tech sector.
Is she in Wales?
She is, yeah. To our journey and how that helped me with resilience, the stuff that I went through, but also talk about integration and how that led, what that journey looked like. So 3 months of writing, met a lovely editor called Sophie. I approached her, she goes, I love the project, I'm more than happy to help. A few months after, Icon Books said to me, we'd love to represent you.
Amazing.
You fast forward a bit later, a few weeks ago, I literally had a copy in front of me, and I didn't know, so I went there and I said, I can't wait for the day to hold a copy of the book, because there's just so much into it. They put it in front of me, and for the next 20 seconds I was lost for words, because I never imagined it. So to physically hold many years of our emotions and story into a single book just felt unreal. But also there's a dedication about my brother, because the final chapter, which is the hardest chapter, took me 4 weeks to write it, and I haven't even read it back, because I know it's quite emotional. I've literally put I've opened up about every emotions I went through, from being at the lowest, lying to mum and dad to cover for my brother because he was having close episodes, to me, my younger brother Hussein, Hamed, Hassan, 3H, to, I think there's a chapter in there called Three Musketeers. We made a promise to stick by each other no matter how bad it got, and we did till the last minute. And yeah, this year be out. spring 2021, we're looking at a potential play in Welsh Millennium Centre.
Yeah.
And I'm in early discussions with BBC regarding dramatising it into a series, movie, God knows what.
I'm going to sell this. Make some money out.
So I genuinely can't wait.
Can you have your signature somewhere?
Of course you can. Do you know what? When I get the hardcover, which is what's coming out in June, I will give you a signature and we'll take a selfie, put on the front page. Because for me, I want people to, read the book and realise, no matter what you've gone through, no matter where you're from, no matter what you've experienced, if you've gone to a good school, a bad school, if you're clever or not, if you genuinely have that self-belief, surround yourself with the right people, you can actually make something out of yourself. And I think that's what this is about. It's a story of hope, and that's why I love the quote. And that's not me, that's the guys in Icon Books have come up with that quote, but I love it because that's what it is. There's emotions in there, there's ups and downs, but that's the crux of the book.
Has it got photos throughout it? Or is it just
no, it's got.
I know there's one on the front.
Me and my older brother, and at the back, it's not there yet. It will have a picture of me, older and younger brother, because obviously, we didn't have that many photos when we were that young. But there's stuff in there, as I said. He talks about the personality comes out in there. My older brother was the cheeky one, the fun one. Younger one, even though he was the youngest, was much more mature and sensible, and yet need the troublemaker. That comes out quite clearly in there.
Yeah. I can't wait to read it.
As I said, I think what I can't wait, it just shows a different perspective.
Yeah. Is it quite it's very raw? I can imagine, and honest and.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've gone to places and talk about what I've gone through quite openly. And people say to me, "That's not easy." I goes, "Well, the reality is I've written in here, so there's no hiding away from it."
Yeah.
I've admitted stuff in there that even I've never talked about. So in there, I talk about how there was a time I went to France, went to snowboarding, and I found out my brother had a really close episode. They had to shock him to reset his heart.
Really well.
And I said, I'm coming back. Went to the local airport at 3 a.m. and then I realised the airport was closed till 7 a.m. It's -12, and I said, I'm just going to stay here till he opens up. And the taxi driver was concerned. He's like, you do know it's -12. So I opened my suitcase, put my clothes on, my thermals, my hat, double gloves, and I said, yeah, you can go. He was reluctant to go because he was like, it's -12. But I just felt I need to be close to my brother to the destination. So I talk about me doing a crazy stuff in there where to mum and dad I said, oh no, I got the plane, it was hunky-dory. I think I actually said there was no snow, so I cancelled the trip. But it was a lie. The reality was I knew my brother needed me and I need to be next to him. So I'm so lucky. I've put the full clothes on. I started walking around the car park like a crazy person, and the security guard realised that this is probably not going to end up well. So he opened one of the sort of arrival doors, and he said, look, just stay in there because you probably freeze to death. And the next day I go to Heath Hospital in Cardiff, and my brother's just coming out of the CCU, and he's like,
what are you doing?
How come you're back? I was like, oh yeah, there was no snow, so they just cancelled the trip. So he talks about that, and that kind of mindset and emotions. But as I said, I'd love people to buy it, read it, talk about it, because I want this to be another avenue to talk about inclusion and diversity and what that means. People have come in and integrated, they've gone on to have jobs and careers, and my brother became an NHS board member, I've gone the same thing. The refugees and all that perspective is completely different in here. So that's something that I never imagined, and I've probably cried over it when I saw it the first time.
I think I'll cry reading it,
and I will end up crying when I get the final version, but probably not in front of camera. So I've learned to control my emotions. But yeah, it's my life.
Good for you. No, it's amazing. International Women's Day on Sunday, and I know you spoke about two of your inspirational women, Sam, BT, and sorry, I've forgotten the other one. Nicole,
yeah.
That's it. Anyone else who's your biggest inspiration, whether it be in work, outside of work? Absolutely, yeah, anyone.
So I've got two role models.
Yeah.
I think people say, if someone's dead or alive, I say, well, you want someone to be a role model that you can actually go and speak to.
Yeah.
That's my mindset anyway.
Okay.
So professionally, it's Sam Toombs. So if she's seeing this, I'm giving her a shout out. And she probably already knows this anyway. So that's my professional role model.
Yeah.
Personally, my personal role model, I think, is a combination of my mum and my older brother. When he was alive, he achieved so much. But then I think even his death led me to me here talking about it quite openly. And it's really weird to think about it that way, but when he passed away, he ignited that energy for me to write a book,
of course.
to talk about it openly, to potentially play documentary, Netflix series, whatever. So that's driven from him. So that's stuck with me. So they're the two role models. Sam for professional reasons, my older brother Hussein for personal reasons.
Yeah.
And obviously my mum for standing up.
Oh, your mum sounds like a boss.
She is.
Yeah.
For standing up and, I said being voice for the voiceless.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to do the same. Obviously she had bigger risks. For me, I'm going to comfortable schools and universities and events and talking about it. So for me to where she is and where I am, I can't even comprehend. So people say, are you nervous? I was like, yeah, but my mum did that, and it was a lot riskier. So I need to just, get on with it. So yeah, they're the two key people in my life.
Cool. What about? I know you've probably mentioned it. If you could choose 3 people to be in your squad, and they can be celebrities, friends, family. I always like to think about it as people that you don't know because of what they can bring. But you absolutely anyone, and I'm guessing you potentially have your 2 brothers and.
I would definitely have my 2 brothers.
Yeah.
My younger one will keep me sane and in line. And my older brother would be the one who would be bringing the sense of humour, the jokes, and the laughter. Who else would I have in my squad? Do you know what? My mum, to keep all of us in line. Siblings tend to have arguments, so we were exactly the same.
And 3 boys.
3 boys exactly. So yeah, my mum, because she'd be the boss. She will have the ultimate call. So if anyone else were out the line, then she'd be on it. Exactly. Yeah.
Ending with your favourite quote. And if you can't use the one that you've already said, because I've bagsied those 2.
Do you know what? Over the years, and writing a book and going to places, I've thought about quotes and which one sticks to me the most. So I'm not gonna go with one.
Okay. I've got 2, so I always say 2 as well.
I've got like 20.
Okay.
I'm not gonna give you all the 20 ones. I've got reflection leads to perfection.
Okay, nice.
I think if we're not being true with ourselves and take a moment and look where we really are, you would never align where you want to go to. So we create an image, a persona to people, but we underneath it we know what's right and what's wrong, even though we don't want to admit it. I think if you don't have that reflection, you would never perfect wherever you want to get to. That'd be one of them. Which one do I want to choose? I'm not going to choose those. I had one which is just never give up, but I think that's quite generic and vague. That's a tough one. Be a leader, but ready to follow. So I think sometimes you have to step up and don't look for others. In your scenario, you said, you know what, I want to make a change, I want to be that advocate. You stood up. That's being a leader. But sometimes you realize there's someone else better than you, better than you in the field, wherever. So, but also don't, exactly my situation, don't have an ego and say, I know the thing about everything. Be quite humble and look at the person who you need to follow and follow. So that's my 2 quotes out of 22.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming all the way from Cardiff, and I know you've got big afternoon this afternoon.
I'm actually in BBC Studios this afternoon meeting an exec producer.
Amazing.
And I'm in NHS this afternoon. They're doing a grand opening. So my brother's legacy was to help younger generation in hospitals. So he said a hospital shouldn't be a place that you go and die. A hospital is a place full of love and care, which is true. Families goes there because they care about their siblings and families and sons and brothers and daughters. The same goes with the nurses. So he had the dream to make that a place that is filled with love and care. So they spend, the 2 nurses who ran the half marathon on his behalf, raised a lot of money to create a new waiting room with full of better kit, colourful design, furniture, and the grand opening is today. So that was my brother's dream when he was alive. They ran the half marathon to just make sure his legacy lived on, and that's grown to be not just a paint job here and there, but a full new ward in or a waiting room in Heath Hospital. So the grand opening is today, and I can't wait, and it's going to be quite emotional to going back to. So busy day.
He'd be such a proud man, I'm sure.
Well, I need to make sure I do all the stuff to make sure his legacy lives on. I think what I love is wherever I go, he comes with me and his story comes with me, so his memory lives on quite strongly. And I think who I am today is from his actions and his behaviours. So.
Wicked. Fab. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.